I want to look at how we can help paint this picture of what it's like to be grieving as a parent, as you get a diagnosis. Because a lot of the children that we work with, right, especially those of us who are in early intervention, when we are coming to, we might be their first ABA experience, their first provider. They may have just gotten a diagnosis, or maybe they're still in that process of trying to get a diagnosis. And there's a lot there as we're sitting down and meeting with these parents for the first time, as their life everything shook for them, right? And they're not quite sure what to expect. And there's some overwhelm and some grief. I don't know if I know this is deep. I know this is a really hard thing to talk about, but I didn't know if you guys would be willing to share what that feels like as a parent.
Yeah. For me, I can remember not sleeping for about a week when I really realized that there was something very different about my child, and that probably because he'd started getting speech well before he got his diagnosis, that probably wasn't just a speech delay. And my hair started falling out. And then you realize that you're not able to connect with other people very well, because other people who have kids will be able to tell you what their kids are interested in. And I just realized that I couldn't really. My son was interested in his fingers. He liked his toes. And I remember feeling so isolated, and I felt sick because I did not know what to expect. I didn't know what his life would look like. I didn't know if I was up to the task of being able to raise someone with a disability. So I think it's not knowing what to expect. And back when Andrew was diagnosed, autism wasn't really discussed much.
Yeah, I can definitely second that. There was no one. We knew not one person that had a child with autism, and our story is a little bit different. Caitlin was neurotypical. We use the terms neurotypical, neurodivergent, but she met all of her milestones until she hit 12 months, and this is, my story. I always kind of brace myself when I tell this story, but she got her vaccines that day. She got the MMR, and she was vomiting and lethargic within 30 minutes once we got home from the doctor's office. We called the doctor, and, this is no big deal. This happens sometimes. We got brushed off. And then later that night, she had a fever. It was 105 is the highest that our thermometer went to. I was not going to use a rectal thermometer to double check. Let's see if it's any higher. She was already projectile vomiting, and we called the doctor, and the doctor said, this happens sometimes, cool her down, tepid bath, blah, blah, blah. And it was within about 2 to 3 months after that. And my husband, Frankie, is April, my husband, Frank, as well. But so our story is a little different. She was meeting all of her milestones. She was walking. She was chatting a little bit, and then all of a sudden she wasn't. And I look back at that time now, and number one, I kick myself for not being more vigilant, for I guess not wanting to see what I was seeing. I'm a nurse. I'm a CVICU nurse. I'm not a pediatric nurse. But because of my background, I just didn't want to see what was right in front of me. And Frankie was the one who was saying, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And yes, we did use the term wrong, but it wasn't until about 18 months that I started really seeing it. And then by the time Erica, my second child, was born, they're 20 months apart. I look back at the pictures now and I think, how in the world did I gloss this over? But I just didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see it. That was the biggest thing with me, was just this huge state of denial. But then when I really sat down and looked at her symptoms in my peds nursing book, I remember just sitting there and just weeping, heartbroken, knowing what was going on, knowing 100% for sure. And that meeting with the doctor went a little after she turned 3, and I put it in Caitlin's book, but that the doctor sitting there after we had repeatedly come to him and said, there's something going wrong. There's something on. Can you just take a look at Caitlin? Can you take another look? And because we kept bringing the concerns, and she kept blowing us off. And I remember that doctor's appointment so vividly when she said, well, she has a lot of the signs of autism, but I'm sure you knew that. And it is only by the grace of Almighty God that I stayed in that chair. Because if I'd been able to get up, I'm sure it would have been a very different picture. I would still be in prison, orange jumpsuit, whole 9 yards, all that. But the sense of loss, the sense of loneliness, the sense of, like you were saying, April, every dream that you had of motherhood at that point is shattered. And you were so vulnerable, and people would say things, and, Amanda, I know you can probably speak to the same experience. People would say things, and, they're trying to be kind. They're trying to be kind. But the things that they would say, you're like, oh, my sweet Rose of Sharon, did you really just say that? Did that come out of your mouth? Trying to be comforting. But, we were just alone. We were alone. It is incredibly isolating. And it wasn't like we didn't have anyone. I mean, we were all just clueless. I mean, when Caitlin was diagnosed, I've looked back at the year, the diagnosis rate of autism when she was diagnosed, she was 3.5. So it would have been 2005-ish, was about 1 in 200. So, and what we knew of autism was Rain Man. I mean, honestly, that was what we thought of and that's what we knew. That was our starting point. And she didn't, of course, act like Rain Man, and then you learn it's a spectrum disorder, and there's ebbing and flowing and all this other stuff. But at the very beginning, you are lost. I mean, you are lost.